Frontline with Kortney, Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests.
We welcome you to another episode of the Frontline Podcast. It's Kortney, Kenny. Pleased to be bringing this episode with you. He's back for his second tour of duty. It's Dom DiVinventiis. Dom, the backup, the rookie sensation, North Bay Battalion. Well, just before we get to you in a moment, I have to introduce my intrepid co-host for this one. It's not Tom like usual. It's Derek Lindeman, one of my partners in crime on the Frontline Game Day broadcast. So, Derek, thanks for stepping in at the last minute there.
No problem, Kortney. It's always a pleasure, and I've talked so highly about this podcast in the past, and finally I get to make an appearance on here. It's great to see everyone.
Yeah, I just said to him that we'd never see him on the podcast. So we were trying to make an active role in making him not on the podcast, and then when I put out the call, the bat symbol in the air, Derek answered. So, but anyways, Dom, last time we talked to you, we were waiting for the season to start and it never really got going, but you got a couple of games under your belt now. What's it like playing in the OHL?
Oh, it's an amazing feeling playing in the OHL. Obviously, like you said in our last call, we were waiting for the season to start. So there was a lot of thoughts going around and what ifs. And, we're finally here. Like you said, I got a couple of games under my belt, and I couldn't be any happier to play in the OHL with the North Bay Battalion. It's totally been an incredible experience so far, and I can't wait to continue my OHL career with the North Bay Battalion.
So you got in 10 games so far. Your record's 3-6. Unfortunately, your play has not resembled exactly what your record shows or displays. Just how have you found the adjustment to the OHL from your minor midget days in Toronto and Vaughan?
Yeah, I mean, like many kids would say, obviously without the season last year, it was a pretty big jump to the OHL from minor hockey. I mean, obviously, like everyone else, practice is where you make yourself better and you make your adjustments. And I feel like playing with the North Bay Battalion, it gave me all that opportunity to play with the top players in the league and be able to adjust to the league fairly well. And I mean, I'm going to continue doing as much as I can during practices, obviously playing with guys like Brandon Coe and Mitchell Russell. Those guys are top players in the league, and couldn't be any happier to be able to practice with them as well as, and obviously have them in front of me in games is even more fun to watch. And yeah.
When you practice with a guy like Brandon Coe or Russell or Matt Bay Petrov or something, and you're in a practice setting with them, how fortunate do you feel that they're on your team and not facing you in a game situation?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's great having them on my team, and couldn't be any happier to have them playing in front of me. But obviously in practice, I try to make it a competition between myself and them. And because, at the end of the day, practice makes perfect. And when you're pushing your teammates during practice, that's how the overall team gets better. And so, I mean, I make my practices like games, and like you can talk to, like Mitchell Russell can back me up on this. We always have little competitions during practice and who's scoring and who's making saves. And at the end of the day, I think it's making both of us better at the same time. So I just enjoy being able to get on the ice with them every day and learn from them as well.
Who usually comes out on top of those challenges in practice, you or Mitchell?
Well, we started on, I'm pretty sure we started late last week. So far I'm on top of that. He'll never admit to it. He'll always find a way to say that he's scoring more than I'm making saves. But at the end of the day, we all know in the bottom of our hearts that I'm making those saves more than he's scoring right now.
I gotta ask, I don't know how religious you, or if you listen at all. It doesn't hurt if you don't. But last episode we had Mackenzie Campbell on, and Tom came in with the haymaker right off the bat. Who is the most high maintenance player on the team? And he named you. What are your thoughts when you hear that?
I totally watched that part. He brought it up to me the day after the interview was released, and at first I was a little bit like, wow, I can't believe he threw me under the bus for that. But at the end of the day, I do got to admit I am the high maintenance guy on the team. I mean, I like Mackenzie said, I just like my equipment to feel right. And that's how I find my comfort zone. And when I enter games and practices, I like to obviously, like many other guys, like feel comfortable in your gear and be ready to play. And like I said before, I treat my practices like games. So I like to go into practices with like sharpened blades and fresh gear, like kind of ready to go right off the bat. And the boys tend to find me calling Matt McKenzie's name a lot in the dressing room, and there's little jokes that go around about it. But yeah, no, he's definitely not wrong by saying my name under that one. But I do it all in great heart, and I hope he enjoys it because it's kind of funny at the same time. Though all the boys laugh at it in the room and everything.
I do want to touch on your gear shortly, but Sunday we got to see Mackenzie Campbell come out there in the second period, do a little repairs. Did he come out with those tie straps for your toe?
Yeah, so it was late in the second. I'm pretty sure there was only like a minute and a half left in the second period, and I saw my lace under my skate, and it was kind of just dangling there. And I was playing with it for a couple minutes, and I just didn't want to take that risk that the Barrie Colts enter our zone and I trip or something, I slip on my lace. So I kind of called them out, and I was just like, if you don't mind, just like tying the pad to the zip tie and just hold it off for another minute and a half, and we'll fix it up in the room. And he was more than happy to do that. And I'm grateful that we have someone like Mackenzie who's able to come up with quick decisions like that and help out quickly during game situations like that.
Yeah. So Sunday, one question I wanted to ask before Derek goes and talks about your gear. There was a lot of breakaway chances, and unfortunately, and you stood pretty tall, and unfortunately they got the one by you eventually, when they had the two guys there. But I just wanted to ask, what goes through your mind as a goaltender when there's a guy coming down one-on-one, you're the last guy he's got to beat type of thing?
Well, I mean, like you said, yeah, on Sunday there were a couple chances they had breakaways and one-on-ones, but like really, I just have a clear mind throughout games, and I kind of don't even try to think about it too much. I have confidence, and I'm confident in my ability to make that one-on-one save, and I just use that as my way to try to make that save and help out my team, because at the end of the day, it's a team game, right? So the forwards have their job, the D have their job, and then my job is to make those saves and make big saves for my team when they need me. So I can't even tell you what I think, because at the end of the day, it's kind of just like, it just happens, you know what I mean? And it's just a clear state of mind I play in. Obviously there's little things that I think about when I play, and those things can be like, okay, this guy's a right-handed shot coming down the ice. If he makes a fake, like kind of hold my edges, and like little technical things that I do in my game, but it's not so much about like, oh, I got to make the save, or like, what am I doing to make the save? It's kind of just go with the flow and do my best type of thing.
Okay, so let's get into your equipment. You're in Bauer this year, Bauer pads and gloves. Not really talking about your helmet yet, but how much input did you have with Bauer on the design of your pads?
Yeah, so prior to me, like playing my first game with North Bay, I was in touch with the Bauer guy, as well as Mackenzie. They wanted to get my specs and design under control before the season starts, so I'm able to get it as soon as possible. So yeah, basically that kind of went through Mackenzie and the Bauer guy, making all the decisions and adjustments with my gear. But I'm close with the Bauer guy. Obviously, you guys know Joe's in Bauer as well, so he was able to help me out a little bit, getting in contact with the Bauer representative, and yeah, now myself and the Bauer guy are really close, and we love to talk about gear because, like Mackenzie said, I'm high maintenance.
So whose idea was it to put the rivets and the wheels on the side of your pads?
So that was an idea that came up during the summer. I don't know if you guys know Ben Goudreau. So yep. I'm really close with him, and I was hanging out with him during the summer, and we were discussing about new gear for himself and I. And we were just talking about it, and little ideas came up, and little did we know, Ben was the one who actually came up with the idea about like making a big tank and he was trying to design it so that it was like the tank coming out of my pads. And then I kind of came up with the idea of having like the tank wheels on the side, and then the front of it be like the shield and like the armor for it. So it was kind of, it was mixed ideas. And at the end of the day, I personally think the gear came out amazing from Bauer, and I know Mackenzie loves it as well. He had a lot to say about it when he first saw that idea, and I couldn't be more happy to wear that gear.
Yeah, so before, sorry, Derek, just before the season started, Mackenzie took me on a tour of the dressing room, and your pads had just come in, and he was just like all over them, like, look at these are the coolest things in the world. So I got up close and personal with the pads. I didn't go as far to try them on, but yeah, they're pretty sick.
Whenever you want to try them on, just tell Mackenzie. You can go for practice if you want.
Okay, game on.
I don't know. He was checking out some Halo design pads today from Bauer, and
yeah,
we're having quite the joke with that.
Well, that's the problem is I'm an awful goalie, but like the equipment, like it's just gorgeous, and I love looking at it.
Yeah, gear is amazing. Like even like there's like Instagram accounts that like called goalie nerd, and they post all different like designs and specs and everything on goalie equipment. It's amazing some of the ideas that people come up with.
Well, I'm going to follow that right this second.
Yeah, I know.
Don't mind me.
Be a little personal with some of your flair on your helmet and that. Is there any personal touches you have on your helmet itself?
Well, yeah. So I'm not sure. Obviously, it's harder to see the back plate of the helmet. But ever since I started being a goalie, back in the day when I was 6 years old, Eye the Tiger and Rocky, the movie Rocky, was my favorite movie, and it still is to this day. And it had a lot of good quotes and good songs that were a part of the series, and Eye the Tiger was one of them that really stuck out to me and really made me like want to drive. And as a goalie, you need to have like strong eyes and quick eyes. And basically what that song and what Rocky represents is the eye of the tiger, which is quick eyes, and they're very powerful and strong. So that saying, eye of the tiger, has always stuck with me since day one. And it's been on all my helmets since I've ever started hockey. So I carried that on, and it's on all my helmets. So I carried that on to this year. And the monster on the side of the helmet, I don't know if you guys remember Jonas Gustafsson in the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
So he had that monster on the side of his helmet, and back in the day, he was my favorite goalie, and I recognized that monster on the side of his helmet, and kind of when I was on JRC, so the Toronto Junior Canadians back in, I think it was Bantam or minor Bantam, I got a helmet, and the helmet was the monster. And I carried it on from when I was on Duffield Devils in like tyke hockey. So when I was little, I had like that monster on it, and it kind of got lost in the years. And I kind of lost it come minor midget when I played for the Vaughan Kings. So I thought maybe let's do a throwback helmet and bring back that first ever helmet I had on Duffield. And it was the monster with the eye of the tiger on the back. And so I brought it up to Mackenzie, and he loved that idea. I talked to my dad about it. He was like in love with it. And so it just kind of, that was like my first ever helmet, and I kind of threw it back.
I wanted to ask this question when we had you on last time, because you had mentioned that you're, growing up, your number was 50 because of Gustafsson and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, I have a soft spot for Jonas Gustafsson because he was on some of my first early favorite Leafs teams. Playing in the late 2000s there, and the hype that came around the monster, the greatest goalie outside of the NHL, blah blah blah. Unfortunately, he never really delivered on that hype. So for you to like look up to him, like I just gotta know what is it about him that you really like, because he never really stole the show like people thought he was going to.
Well, I mean, my favorite goalie now is Carey Price, but like when you played for the Leafs, because the Leafs is my favorite, like the Toronto Maple Leafs is my favorite team, and it always was since I was growing up. And I guess when he went there, he was their starting goalie for a couple of years, and just always watching him and kind of me being a goalie as well, it was cool to watch a starting goalie, and I was younger. So obviously when kids are younger, they tend to fall in love with things a lot easier and have soft spots for things a lot quicker. And that was me with Gustafsson. I was watching games when he was in net, and the Leafs were my favorite team. I went to a couple practices to watch the Leafs, and he was on the ice, and he was such a nice guy. Like, gave me sticks when I was a little kid.
Cool.
I have a couple pictures with him. So it had a lot of meaning to me, and I recognized that monster on his helmet, and it kind of just it grew on me a little bit, and I kind of decided to put it on mine to try it out, and so I threw it back this year.
I obviously true blue diehard Leafs fan over here, unfortunately, as well. So I gotta ask your opinion. You mentioned Carey Price is your favorite goalie now, but what's I don't want to go down the rabbit hole that is the Toronto Maple Leafs and make this podcast all about the Toronto Maple Leafs. It could very well easily become that, but I wanted to ask your opinion on what's your thoughts on current Leaf starter Jack Campbell.
Oh, he's been helping their team out a lot. That's what I got to say. He's definitely stole the show for them. And even that young guy, Joseph Woll, that came to play with them, he's been on fire lately. And I think a lot of people say this every year, the Leafs, this is their year. But I genuinely think that this is the Leafs' year. They have a great duo of goaltending, and I think this is their year that they can possibly make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and do something. And obviously, there's a long season ahead, but so far, the way that things have been going, it looks pretty good.
Oh, I hope so. I really do. And I got to say about Joseph Woll, he has the greatest Instagram handle. It's just Brick Woll. Like, that's the greatest.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before. It's pretty cool.
It's perfect. Anyways, I won't steal the spotlight. I'll let Derek answer some more or ask some more questions.
You talked about Gustafsson kind of like taking pictures of you and giving you sticks and that. How do you feel now that it's kind of role reverse where you have some younger kids looking up to you, especially here in North Bay?
Well, yeah, it's great. Definitely seeing those kids up here in North Bay that always want fist pumps and pucks during warm up, and it's great. I'm always that type of kid that loves to give back. Just like I was one of those kids one day when I would see Gustafsson at a practice, and he would give me a stick and take a picture with me, and I thought it was the coolest thing at the time, and I looked up to him, like I mentioned before. So it's definitely great for me to be able to get back to the kids that are younger and idolize guys that play the same role that they do. And for me, I love doing it, and I love like giving fist pumps before games and seeing a kid out of practice, like giving them a puck and during warmups, and it's great. I think a lot of kids take that to heart, and they seriously run with that throughout their career, and it drives them to become what they see when they're older.
Mm-hmm. So true. And I know a lot of communication goes on between you and your defenseman. And one thing that we've talked about in games is the relationship we see, especially Ty Nelson coming up to you after you're saving his behind after he makes a mistake. How important is that communication between you and fellow defensemen, or even Ty Nelson?
Well, I'll start off with Ty Nelson. Him and I played on the same team since we started out hockey, like on Duffield Devils during Tyke. And so we've always been really close buddies. And obviously he went his own path and went to play a year older for Toronto Junior Canadians while I was on the 04 Toronto Junior Canadians team, and being drafted to the same team. Like, I know he was the happiest kid alive, and as well as I was when I heard my name from being called from North Bay. Like, it was great to be able to be back on the same team and be able to do what we did when we were kids. And so having that communication, and Ty is a true leader on and off the ice, and everyone will admit to it. He's truly a kid that's hardworking and loves to have like communication with their goalies and his forwards. But for him and I, like, to have that communication, we're like a 1-2 duo. Like, he's a defenseman and I'm a goalie. We need to have that communication at all times, so we're all on the same page. And especially when like I make a save or if I let in a goal, having him come up to me and just say like, great save, or don't worry about it, focus on that next save, like you'll get it back, we'll get you a goal. Like that, those are all things that obviously they drive me to make that next save, or they put confidence back in me. If I make a nice save and he's coming up to me to say like, great save, like it gives me that confidence and it allows me to drive to making that next save, like I mentioned. And even when he makes a nice play, I'm the first one to him and say like, great pass or nice goal. Like we have that relationship there that's really tight, and I enjoy being on his team, and it's great.
Well, I gotta ask what it's. I mean, you're the up and comer. You're the rookie. Technically, would be your second year in the league, but you're looking to steal starts away from Joe. Obviously, you want to get out there and play as much as you can. What's it like being in a tandem with him, and having that relationship where you're trying to take games away from this guy, but you're also trying to learn from him as much as you can as well?
Yeah, like I said about Ty, it's all about having that great duo. And Joe and I believe that Joe and I have one of the top duos in the league. And I think Joe being drafted to the NHL and having a couple more years in the OHL as experienced than I do, I think it's great. We're pushing each other and it's allowing us to make ourselves better, and as well as the team. It's allowing the team to be able to play with trust in both of us. And if Joe's not in that and our team is playing, I love that they have trust in me. And when Joe's in that, they have trust in him. So it's definitely a great thing that him and I are pushing each other. And I totally learn a lot from Joe. Like I truly tell him every day, like how much I learned from him and the little things that he does. Like I mentioned, that he has a couple more years in the league than I do. You always will find different things that they do to make their game better. And you can feed, like for myself, I feed off of that and I use that to try to help my game out. And I've heard Joe say it before on the podcast, like him and I, we got to meet each other last summer. We worked with the same goalie coach throughout the summer. We hung out a couple times, and we were able to come into the season already knowing each other, which was very important, as we were able to like start running off the ground like fairly quick into the season. And it's great. It was great being able to get to know Joe early, and it's great playing with him now.
So how much do you feel it is actually a competition between you and Joe, or is it more just friendly rivalry, trying to push each other to be the best that you can?
Well, obviously there's competition in friendly rivalries. We compete every day. We compete for starts. We compete for like little like games during practice that we do and with the team. But at the same time, it's friendly competition. Him and I, when we're on the ice, we push each other. We grind through it together, and when we're off the ice, we're best buddies, and we're talking like nothing ever happened. And there's gonna be days that one of us is having a not as good practice, and the other one's right up there just saying like, keep going, keep pushing, and don't lose your confidence, keep pushing. And I think that's very important to have as friends with competition as well. And I think progressing throughout the hockey career, you're always going to have competitors willing to take your spot and push to fight to take your games and practice harder than you. So I think it's great that him and I are both hard workers and that we have a competition. And then when we're off the ice, we're great buddies.
I got to ask you this is a little bit of a tough question to ask because you never know what you're going to get. But when we had Ty on, I had to ask this question. I've heard through the grapevine, obviously you're pals with Ty, but I've heard through the grapevine, and if you're not comfortable answering this, by all means, let me know if you are. But I've heard through the grapevine that you're good pals with Adam Fantilli as well.
Yeah, Adam and I have been best friends since we were as well as the same age that Ty and I played. We played all three of us played together.
So I'm sure you know what the question is that's coming. Have you been in contact trying to sell him North Bay?
I have. I've been trying my hardest to just pump up North Bay's tires, because in the past, North Bay may have not had the greatest reputation, and a lot of people have negative comments to say about North Bay. But at the end of the day, no one really knows what North Bay is all about until you get up here. For me, I love it up in North Bay. Like, I would not want to be anywhere else. And coming into North Bay, I never really had any negative thoughts. Like, I wasn't letting people feed me with negative thoughts coming into North Bay, because when I got up here, I fell in love with it right away. And being able to play, especially on our type of team where we're competing with every team in the league, it's great going into games knowing that that the other team on the other side is going to give you their full effort. And I think I've been trying to get at him and trying to get him to come to North Bay. That's obviously, it's their personal and family decision, and I can only do so much, like advertise our wins and show them meals when we go on team meals and team bonding. But at the end of the day, I can't make the decision for them. And I'm sure that's kind of what the same answer Ty said as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I gotta preface that even though us fans are really excited to hopefully get him up here, obviously you got to respect his decision and his family's decision.
Exactly.
If North Bay,
as close as I am with them, that's more of a personal and family decision, and I'm not gonna get involved. I'm gonna try my best to talk to him about it and just get him to understand like what North Bay is about and that it's an amazing city. But at the end of the day, for him to make his decision to come here, that's their their personal life, and I'm not involved with that.
No, and
so it's one of the truly respectful answer. And so you've talked about how nice North Bay is. What is Dominic doing on a day off in North Bay?
Well, on a day off in North Bay, I'm still, like, I've just finished high school, but I was in high school as of last week. So on a day off in North Bay, like, I'm still going to Chippewa from 8:50 to 3:00 in the afternoon all day. Typically on a day off, the high school guys will go out to Burger World for a lunch and have a little bit of team bonding there aside from the rink, and just catch up with each other and talk about the game that happened that past weekend and have a couple laughs and just enjoy our hour off that we have for lunch, and then come home, typically eat like a dinner with the Billet family, spend time with like the Billets, watch a hockey game that may be on that night, and then get ready for the next day, which is practice day. And I mean, it's hard when you have, like I said, like when we're in school all day. But now that I'm done school, and some of the other guys have co-op, which they don't have to technically go into school. I'm sure we'll find a couple more things to do during the day, maybe take a couple walks as a group down like the water, and like it's nice weather up here still. So like maybe we can find something to do outside and just kind of enjoy our day off, as well as team bonding like that.
When you mentioned Burger World, I don't know how many people might be aware of this, but have you guys seen Paul in the ads, and have you guys critiqued him at all?
Yeah, we've seen Paul there. We've had a couple laughs with him, and it's a great advertisement, great commercial. And I mean, we talked about, we see Paul there all the time, and he comes with us as well, and we see Mark there as well, the owner of Burger World. He's a great guy. So yeah,
I think the acting's fantastic, personally.
Oh, me too. He's a great actor and hockey player, both great combination.
Yeah. Oh yeah, superstar potential, basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask another question about this one. This one's more about you and your playing and everything, because you don't see this very often, but we've seen it a couple of times between either you or Joe this year. Especially when I think you started against Hamilton and then the Sioux the very next night. So usually you see when there's a tandem, goaltending situation, you'll see the other guy start the next day if it's a game the day right after. But you started the game in Hamilton and then the Sioux. How tough is that with, you start the game on a back-to-back like that, but also with travel in there? Or is that something that you feel like you can thrive on?
Well, for sure. I'm like many goalies in this league. It's definitely something that you take with granted, and you take that like kind of like a compliment from the coach to say that we have confidence in you and we trust you to be able to play those two games. And I think for me, it was a great experience and a great learning point in my career, because there's going to be times where you're going to have to play a game and then the next day travel and play another game. And that's going to be like that throughout like my whole hockey career. And it's definitely something you want to learn earlier in the season, as you never know what happens down the road. And I'm sure Joe's had to learn it throughout his career, and I'm sure he learned it in his first season as well. And obviously the first time you do it, it's definitely a difficult, it's difficult to be able to play back to back like that. And your body's not used to it, because typically in minor hockey, you'll have, unless you're in a tournament, you have a couple of days off and then you play another game. Well, that day, like in the OHL now, it's you have back-to-back starts. So it's definitely something you learn from. It's definitely an experience you want to have. Because I know for me, obviously that Sault Ste. Marie didn't go as well as I wished it did, but it was definitely a great learning point in my OHL career. And it was something that I respected the coaches for doing to me. And I really appreciate that they did that earlier on in my career, as it's something that they said to me is like, we have confidence in you. We trust you. And it's something for me to learn going on throughout my career.
I wanted to go ahead, Derek.
No, go ahead.
No, my question is such a fluff question. It's all good.
I was going to ask you about the atmosphere playing at North Bay Memorial Gardens, especially Sunday, Indigenous Youth Day. We saw just over 2,600 people there. How much does that influence you as a player? And can you really, really feel it as a goaltender?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was my second game in the Memorial Gardens, and every time it gets better. And it's such a great crowd to have playing in front of, and a great crowd in North Bay. North Bay is it's truly a hockey city, and people know what hockey's all about. And I think when you get a fan base that knows what hockey's all about, it makes it even more electric in that arena. And for a goalie to hear the crowd go crazy when you make a big save, it definitely gives you that boost of energy and confidence. And you want to make sure you make more of those saves and have those fans go crazy for your team, because as much as it helps myself, it helps out the whole team. And we're able to maybe get a goal off of that or get a power play shortly after. And it's definitely something that I love playing in front of, because like I said, it's a hockey city, and it's crazy in that arena when we win and when we score, or even when Joe and I make big saves. It's truly amazing.
This is something, and I'm shocked it's taken me this long to ask this question of any of you guys, really. We're up in the booth, and I get goosebumps every time I hear a "Go Troops, Go" chant. And I'm not on the team, but you are on the team. You're down there on the ice. You're down there on the bench. How does that feel when you hear the crowd, chanting "Go Troops, Go"?
Oh, it's an amazing feeling. I'm with you on that one. I get the little shivers. I get that excitement and sometimes the goosebumps, and like it's amazing to hear the fans go crazy like that. And I can tell you from being on the bench and even playing in the game, it helps the whole team come together and push to get that next goal or get that next power play. And it's something that I hope continues with our crowd, because it's amazing.
So let me just ask about the opposite. When you're in a visiting building and you hear the reverse chants, how hard is it mentally to stay in your game?
Well, for me personally, as a goalie, I mean, you want it, like I mentioned before, I play with a clear mind. I play with a mind that doesn't let any negative energy in. And playing in an opposing arena and hearing the boos and hearing them chanting for their home team, it's something that I don't allow get in my head. I kind of try to tone it out and ignore the fact that they're saying that and just focus on what's happening on the ice pad. Because obviously like when our crowd goes crazy for our team, it's definitely positive energy towards myself and Joe and the team. So it's something that I like to feed off of. But playing in an opposing arena, when they're booing and they're chanting for their team, it's more negative energy, and that's kind of being toned out for me, at least.
Do you do anything in particularly, such as like a little twerk, like skate to the corner, to try and help yourself refocus after a play?
Well, yeah, after plays, because I work with a mental coach once to twice a week. And so we've gone through scenarios like that where I'm playing in an opposing arena and there's boos and there's chants going on for the other team. And kind of what I like to do is have a reset routine. And once the whistle goes, it's kind of close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths in and blow it all out and kind of get into another reset time. Because obviously when the whistle blows and the fans are going crazy, you're not zoned in on that puck. So you may be able to get a little bit of the noise on the, like behind you from the crowd. But for me, allowing me to do that, close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths, it allows me to kind of keep the fans toned out until that puck gets dropped. And then I'm back in and out the game and focusing on that puck.
So here's my promised fluff question for you. I know when we had you on the first time, you talked about, growing up, number 50 was your thing. And I always felt like if I was a player and I went to a team and I was stuck playing, with another number, that number would eventually become my identity. If you were given the option right now, they opened up all the numbers and you were given the option to switch to 50, would you, or would you stay with your current number?
That's a tough question. I wouldn't.
Okay, it wasn't a fluff question.
I wouldn't call that a fluff question. That's actually really tough. Because I mean, obviously, like I mentioned on the first time I was on the podcast, number 50 was my number growing up. But now that I'm in 31 and I'm with a new team, I'm starting a new chapter in my life. I would probably stay with number 31. It's like I said, it's opened up a new chapter in my life. And you got to be able to adjust to the things that happen. There's going to be bumps in the road, and one of these was a bumps. And being able not to wear my favorite number and my number that I grew up with, it's just another thing that I have to adjust to. And I think like I would keep number 31.
Good answer. I think the fans think that 31 suits you pretty well too. So I wanted to say huge thank you to Dom DiVinventiis coming for a second tour of duty on the Frontline podcast. It's we like goalies. Tom's gonna regret missing out on this episode because he loves goalies too. So we love having you guys on. It's always a fun episode, and we'll have to tell Mackenzie you're not as high maintenance as he says you are.
No. Well, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. I'm sure we'll have you on plenty more times before it's all said and done, Dom.
I can't wait.
Again, a huge thank you, Dom DiVinventiis, Doc DiVinventiis, as I called him on the Battalion broadcast, because he's it's a different sport, but guy reminds me of Roy Halladay out there, calm, cool, collected, and fantastic. So, you know what, Doc DiVinventiis, we're gonna do a movement, Derek. It's gonna be the next thing that he puts on his helmet is Doc.
I know, it's just so unfortunate that we see him play so well. I remember we seen him in Ottawa the time we went to Ottawa and they lost that 2-1 game on that penalty shot in the final minute. Like, he played so well and deserved to come out with at least a point. And then last Sunday, 1-0, like heartbreakers. Absolute
heartbreakers. But before we get into some back to the Battalion, we talked about not hijacking the podcast and talking about the Leafs, but it looks like we're going to talk about the Leafs because Derek had a funny story just off air that we're going to talk about. As mentioned, DiVinventiis is a big Jonas Gustafsson fan, the monster. Derek has a bit of an interesting story when it comes to Jonas Gustafsson.
Yeah, well, I'm a hockey card collector for both Kortney and Ben Long know that chasing hockey cards. And I remember Gustafsson's year with Toronto, and I tried to chase his rookie card and get it. And then I was in Toronto at the car show, and I was talking to one of the representatives from Upper Deck, and he's like, we don't have any Gustafsson left, but we'll give you this autographed James Reimer rookie card instead. I'm like, who's James Reimer? And then he goes on a run, and the card ends up quadrupling in price by the end of the year. I'm like, okay, I guess I made it out okay.
How much did you pay for it?
Nothing. I got it in a draw.
Actually. Oh, okay.
Ended up selling it for $250.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, James Reimer is one of my favorite Leafs goaltenders of all time. He's one of the happiest guys you'll like. In interviews, he was just always smiling, and the Leafs did him dirty. He basically carried that. I mean, I know it's a lockout shortened year, but he basically carried that team to Game 7 against Boston. And then, the Leafs lost that game. They were up 4-1. Blah blah blah. We got to go get Jonathan Bernier. I never liked Bernier. Bernier could have won the Vezina, and I never would have liked him because of how they treated Reimer on that. Like, just awful. And then Bernier comes and he has a solid first year, and then he's garbage for the rest of his tenure. Bringing Freddie Anderson, but I was kind of hoping that they bring James Reimer back this I
was too. Optimus Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, they got one of Carolina's goalies in Peter Mrazek, if you could consider that, considering Mrazek's only played 3 games of the Leafs so far. But yeah, no.
Yeah, he didn't look too bad against Chicago.
Yeah, he didn't look. I mean, well, it was another 4-1 game, Derek. But anyways,
they held on to win it 5-4.
Yeah, because your Blackhawks are garbage this year.
Yeah,
but to be fair, that was a garbage 5th goal. Like, the Leafs got lucky to get that goal.
And you know what? Every time Chicago plays Toronto, it's a tight game. It's something like with Chicago, they always seem to get up when they're playing against Toronto. And you know what? Most games are either won or really tight games.
I remember, I think it was the second year of Matthews and Marner era when they played Chicago like Thanksgiving weekend, and that was the Marner like hand to the ear thing, and then Kane goes right back down and does it back to him.
I think it was like 7-6 or something that game.
Yeah, that was
they were trading the Hulk Hogan salute.
Yeah. So I was that was Thanksgiving weekend because the family, we rented out the 406 wing and we were having a potluck Thanksgiving dinner, and they have like a bar area and then a dance hall area in the 406 wing. And I was like the only person in the bar area because the Leafs game was on and everyone else was out in the dance hall. And I was like, just don't bother me. I'm watching the Leafs. So anyways, that's our little Leafs rant. We didn't get off topic, so too bad for the people at home that are waiting to hear that little stinger. Maybe we will. Who knows? Battalion.
I think that was only me that liked it.
Well, I don't know. I've heard some mixed reviews, but maybe, hey, if you want to sponsor the off-topic stinger, give us a shout. I'll sell my soul for this podcast at this point. You know, like you want to have your name mentioned on here. All right. That's one Kortney soul. Brought to you by Northern Wood Customs. No, anyway.
Yeah.
So anyways, battalion stuff. You got to see all 3 games this past week. I didn't. I missed the Sioux game, but I was there with you and Barrie, or for the 2 Barrie games. Before we get into those Barrie games, why don't you take us through that Sioux game, the exciting overtime Brandon Co game?
Well, it was quite an exciting Sioux game. It's the first time we got to see the Sioux in North Bay. North Bay carried a lot of play early on, but battled back in the third period twice from 1-goal differences. They were down 3-2, came back 3-3, went down 4-3, and then 4-4. And it was like one of those back and forth games. You just didn't know who was actually going to come out ahead. And going into overtime, it was kind of a extended shift for Brandon Coe. He kind of took it a little bit longer because he still had some legs left. The Sioux took the play right from the start, gathered up the puck and tried to hold on to it and create a little bit of an odd man chance. And North Bay just didn't chase the Sioux players around. They stayed in their triangle and kept it outside. They got a great opportunity, and Brandon Coe stayed on, and he did a lot of work in the offensive zone, turning and firing past. And you know what? It was nice to see a battle like that the North Bay Battalion came back in the third period and actually going through an overtime and tight games. That was the story of the whole weekend. All 3 games, 1-goal games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then still, even though it left a sour taste in their mouth by losing the last 2, you still got 3 out of 6 points. So, I mean, still a good weekend for the Battalion. But yeah, and then you and I make the road trip with Ben Long down to Barrie, to the Sadlin Arena, our second trip to the Sadlin Arena. I mentioned this on the broadcast to Matt when we were there because it was just before Halloween, and Del Monte, who plays for the Colts, they had like Halloween costumes, up on the board of them wearing stuff, and he's wearing a banana suit. Pretty on brand, I would have to say.
Yeah, well, and the goaltender, La Llama, he was wearing the llama costume.
Yeah. I mean, when you're gifted with something like that, like again, back to the Joseph Wool, Brick Wool Instagram handle, when you're gifted with something like that, you got to go with it. Like, right. Like you can't not. So, I mean, Derek, did you ever dress up like a wine bottle or anything?
No wine bottles. It really didn't become noticeable, the wine brand, until I was in college. So
perfect timing.
I know, I was past the Halloween costume.
Oh no, perfect timing for partying in college. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's a perfect Christmas gift.
There you go. Derek Lindeman will take a bottle of Lindemans.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we get down to Barrie, and it's well, first off, you got in a little bit of trouble at dinner.
Yeah.
So went out to the I'll let you tell that story. Went out to the Mandarin anyways for dinner. So
yeah, we met one of Kortney's friends down there, so we went out to the Mandarin for dinner, all four of us, and they take us to our table in the one of the rooms, and instead of sitting down and listening to the rules, I decided I needed to hit the washroom because we just got down there. So I proceeded to go to the washroom, and I have to walk past the buffet and all the food. So I'm like, okay, on the way back from the washroom, I'm going to pick up a plate of food because I'm not going to waste any time. So I get all my food, and this lady in a pink vest starts coming up, and she's like, excuse me, and follows me all the way back to the table. And she's like, sir, you didn't use your gloves when you took the food. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, okay, sorry. And then when I sat down, Kortney explained to me that you're supposed to take these disposable gloves with you to get the food off the buffet table.
Yeah, that's just the buffet world in COVID, I guess. How did you, like, you didn't hear her the first time that she said, excuse me?
Nah. There was actually somebody else before that in the buffet line that told me. So I was kind of like, yes, I'm sorry. Next time I'll use my gloves. But so this lady, she happened to follow me all the way back.
Well, I mean, at that point, damage is already done. If you got COVID, we've all got it now. So,
well, she let me have my food. So
yeah,
on the positive side.
Yeah, they didn't kick you out, which would have been absolutely hysterical. Because I wouldn't have left just because you got kicked out. I would have finished my meal.
Yeah, it was good though.
Yeah, Mandarin's always top notch. If you're in Barrie, hey Mandarin, you want to sponsor the Off Topic Stinger? We got none around here, but anyways, so game time. Get to the rink, we get set up, everything's good to go. 4 goals in the first period. We thought we were in for a doozy.
Yeah, 16 minutes in, we're at a 2-2 score, and Petrov already has his 18th and 19th of the season. We're like, this is going to be a high scoring day. And then for the next 44 minutes, not a single goal. And then 5 minutes overtime didn't solve anything either.
No, and then a shootout, and even then only 1 goal in the shootout. So, but that's something that we kind of debated, the three of us on the broadcast. Shootouts, not a fan. Like,
no, it's more of a skills competition, and unfortunately, even the one that they scored on Joe, the puck was bouncing and bounced over a stick a few times, so it was like almost like, not that Joe gave up, but it's like, oh, this is going to be an easy save, and then at the last second, it sits down for him, and he puts one over top of his pad, and it's like, I didn't even think that was even going to be possible with the way the puck was bouncing all night going down there on that breakaway.
Yeah, a little bit of a heartbreaker, a little bit, but Battalion were looking to rebound less than 24 hours later against the very same Barrie Colts, and as we heard previously talking to Dom, they just couldn't get the job done. And what were your takeaways from those 2 games against Barrie?
2 evenly matched teams. Barrie went out and picked up Matt Guzda from Owen Sound, knowing that they probably had a need for a goaltender if they wanted to make a solid run this year in the OHL. Early indications from everyone that I've heard said that Barrie was going to be one of the top Central League teams, and it just appeared early on that goaltending was their area of need. They addressed that with Guzda, and now we see between them and North Bay, two evenly matched teams that one bounce either way could have went for a victory. Like, I feel so bad for DiVinventiis after playing such a great game on Sunday, having that shutout and then such a bad break there, the rebound on the shorthanded breakaway. It's just, you know what? They played well. Both teams played really good and solid. And the remainder of the game is like, I think they have 6 games left against each other, and they're going to be tight, hard-fought games. Like, the rivalry is going to be alive between Barrie and North Bay.
Oh yeah, and it'll be fun to watch and keep an eye on for the rest of the season. It's just Matt Guzda, man. He stands on his head whenever he plays North Bay, whether that's with Owen Sound or now Barrie. He's just kryptonite to North Bay for whatever reason, and hopefully North Bay solves that. Because if you got a few more games against them this year, you gotta get some of those wins. But I also wanted to highlight, while you were on, you had picked up on this, a bit of a couple of career milestones for Mitch Russell.
Well, the one that he accomplished already was his 100th point he got on Thursday night in the win over the Sioux Greyhounds. But he's sitting at 199 OHL games played. So Thursday's game, when Niagara's in town, it's the teddy bear toss night. That's going to be his 200th game, and it's quite an accomplishment for a player to have played 200 games in the OHL.
Yeah, it really is, especially when there's such like a small window where you're eligible to play in the OHL. But it would be pretty nice if he could get the teddy bear toss goal in his 200th game like that.
Yeah, that would be special. And you know what? No matter what happens, whoever scores that goal Thursday night, it's going to be a special night for them and the whole team. Seeing those teddy bears rain down on top of the ice and just the joy. I remember last time I was ringside and I got to take a lot of pictures of the players picking up the teddy bears, posing for pictures with them. And I wanted to ask Dom about is he worried about taking any teddy bears off the head during that game?
Well, the good thing is most teddy bears are soft. So if you're entering concussion protocol after that, maybe you have some bigger issues that we don't know about. But we'll have to. Yeah, we should have had that. Well, while you're here, then before we go, who is your pick to score the teddy bear toss goal? Because historically, the only guy he wasn't the only guy on the team, but the guy who got the goal last time, Brandon Coe, still a part of the team.
Yeah, I think Coe and Petrov are the two easy choices to predict for that teddy bear toss game. But you know what? I'm going to go off the board and I'm going to take Dallin Wakely. He likes to score big time goals, and I think he's going to come through Thursday night and pot that first one for the Battalion.
Absolutely. He took my pick right away from me. So Derek, you're fired. Let's you know what I'm thinking here. I'm gonna go with I can't pick Wakely, and I'm gonna take the entire first line out of the equation. So I'm gonna pick Simon Rose is gonna be my pick.
That would be a good one.
Local boy, kind of, in a sense, born in North Bay. This is overage season. He hasn't had the most consistent year, but you know what? He's motivated. He's a highly motivated player, and he gets that teddy bear toss goal. Well, that's just kind of a feather in his cap in his overage season to say, yeah, you know what? You may have led the league in scoring, Brandon, but I got the teddy bear toss goal.
I made it rain teddy bears.
Exactly. Derek, I really appreciate you being my emergency call up here for the Frontline podcast this week. It was I really appreciate it, especially just as soon as I had said to you, yeah, you'll never be on the podcast. I'm never taking you on. So look at that.
Well, I remember I told you in Barrie that I was going to have a surprise for you when I finally made an appearance, but unfortunately this wasn't it. And I really appreciate everything that you and Tom do, not only for the Battalion, but also for the listeners. I really enjoy getting a look in behind the scenes other than what the players show on the ice. It's nice to hear them and talk about experiences in North Bay, and it's just such an enlightenment for true fans to see what goes on. Expect like Mackenzie Campbell last week. That was so great to hear about his story and what he does for the club. And a lot of people just think, okay, he equipment manager. I just make sure all the sticks are there, and I stand on the bench and I hand a stick out whenever I need one.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into it, and it was a real eye opener, and I appreciate it. And I wish you guys all the success and continue doing a great job.
Oh, I appreciate the kind words, Derek. I always do. And I better not see my listenership take a hit because you're the one on it this week and you don't want to listen to it because you lived it. I better not see my listenership take a hit because you didn't listen. So
I'm going to listen to it tomorrow morning. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully it works. We
if the internet works for new listeners.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the other thing is it's kind of tough when you're on hotel Wi-Fi up in New Liskeard. So
you did a really good job making your bed.
Hey,
your bed looks awesomely made behind you.
Oh, I probably shouldn't do this. That's not my bed. That's the other bed in the room. My bed is right there. I took everything that was a mess on this one because I use it like as my like little desk right now. I just threw it over there because I was like, no one's gonna see that right now. But well, now it's on YouTube and you're reacting to it, so people who listen to the podcast can only know that it's awful. But anyways, yes, I appreciate the kind words, and I'm sure we'll have you. I'm sure we'll have you on some other time, Derek. But until then, thanks again. And that's Derek Lindeman, my co-host, who you can catch on the Frontline Game Day broadcast. Hosting, sometimes doing play-by-play, jack of all trades, master of none. No, I'm just kidding with you, Derek. Also
so
huge,
true.
Yeah. Also huge thank to Dom DiVinventiis, our wonderful guest this week. It was a blast catching up with Dom, especially since the last time we talked to him. He was gearing up for a season that just never happened. So good to have him back on. If you're listening to this or want to listen to this, or I don't know why you would want to listen to it if you're already listening to it. You can catch it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, the Battalion social media pages. Heck, we even have our own social media on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to follow along on game days, Derek is there usually running the social media. So, reach out, say hi. I'm sure Derek doesn't bite too hard. I want to thank our intrepid producer, Ben Sargent, as well as Tom calls him. This is another episode of the Frontline Podcast. And as Tom says, it was a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.